Welcome back to some professional StarCraft 2 with the most creative Terran player out there. In the blue, the Admiral. It's GuMiho. Facing off against the former Zerg World Champion. In the red, the Executioner. We have Rogue. A Terran versus Zerg showdown between two players who reject your metagame and substitute their own. Just like I'm hoping you'll reject apathy and smash that like button. And maybe even subscribe. Help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Just one more. 1,582 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one, and I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Rogue going down for his third hatchery. Is that a tech lab? GuMiho. Okay. Well, GuMiho, straight out of the Bronze League Heroes playbook. Get that tech lab early so you can get stim for your Marines. Is this the fastest starport tech lab you could possibly get while still expanding? I believe so. Factory's finishing on top of the ramp. He's got a command center on the way. The Reaper gets across the map. So because the Overlord takes its sweet, sweet time gliding on the air currents across the map, there's no chance of Rogue scouting this, and this is the largest map in the current pool. So with the sheer amount of distance between the players and the kind of it's not really a non-aggression pact, but just the he just popped the drone up right up against the Queen's leg and then murdered it under her feet, and you wonder why they're angry. First blood goes to GuMiho, surprisingly able to snipe off a drone in Rogue's own base. And wow, leave it to GuMiho for the fastest possible cloak Banshee. While still expanding, yes, but he gets the tech lab on the edge of the base. He has it hidden from the Overlord, and because Rogue went for the pro gamer Overlord, the pro-Overlord, if you would you? Probably won't do that again, but the Overlord that, honestly, really only top-level players do this. Hiding around the back, trying to come in from a better angle to see most of the tech. And GuMiho, one of the few players I've seen to actually try to hide from it. Now, that overripe tomato will be gliding its way across, and we'll see the Tech Lab starport. But this means there needs to be incredibly fast spore crawlers already on the way, anticipating this cloak Banshee. Overlord does get taken down, and GuMiho, Rogue does not see the third command center on location. I think GuMiho right now is playing the idea of Terran versus Zerg, as opposed to this actual match right now. GuMiho knows that Rogue is expecting a third command center, probably in the corner of the base. The cloak Banshees will keep him busy. A few Zerglings gonna slip by. They might even see the command center. They will, but too late to do anything about. And GuMiho has said, everyone hop into the minivan. We're going to McDonald's. And a big mech play from GuMiho here to stunt things off. He's gonna follow it up with two more factories. I don't know if the Zerglings were sent across and Gumi had already... Okay, and you too. Yeah, bring the Zerglings in. Don't forget your Zerglings. GuMiho micro your cloak Banshee on the other side. Lets a Zergling in the base. How gracious of him to let Rogue know what he's dealing with. So now we got a fair game. Terrans are pretty much able to scout the entirety of the Zerg's base, and lo and behold, Rogue is making Queen's drones and legs. Now, Rogue gets a Zergling in, will be able to scout the factories. He knows there's a third command center on the way, and this is GuMiho's original recipe right now. Battle mech. Cyclone Hellions. Wow. It's been quite a bit since we've seen it. Now, there's been a lot of changes in that sort of process. Jimmy, do we got the memes on hand? I said on hand. Anyways, well, many moons ago, in a galaxy in a meta far, far away, GuMiho discovered that mech units were also good. And the Hell Clone strategy was born. And now Cyclones have changed, and then changed back, and then changed again, and now they're back. And they're kind of like how they were originally, so... Anyways, the net result is, right now the Cyclone and Hellions are about as close to the way they were back in the... Oh! Get off my creep! Oh, Brenda, technically it wasn't on creep. Our creep extends, it's sovereign territory. Shut up, Susan. So, factories with mag field accelerator on the way. Vehicle plating, because for Cyclones, most of their damage comes from the lock-on, which is technically a spell or ability, which goes straight through armor. Weapon upgrades do not apply, but the mag field accelerator upgrade does, which is 50% more damage on that lock-on. Changeling, don't mind if I do. I know. There's a Nidus on the way. Rogue, going to try to shut this down before it starts. This is a high economy Nidus play. That means just trying to catch the army out of position, and the main weakness of mech is how brittle it can... It's Swarm Host Nidus. I don't know what I expected. I didn't even notice the... Sir Richard and his band of Swarm Host brethren. Here we go. Hey, boys. How you doing? You got one of those fancy cars for me? No? Oh, okay. GuMiho just letting Rogue get all the information. GuMiho doesn't... He has one Marine, and that ain't it. But... at this point, the cards are on the table, at least GuMiho. Meanwhile, the Swarm Host Nidus, the Swarm Host will be spotted. They walk right into the scan. I believe the Nidus was as well, yes. And that means GuMiho, he's got Hellions off to the edges. There's actually a floating barracks that is dangerously close to spotting the Nidus over to the right flank. But it won't quite see it in time. There's a Banshee scouting for it. That the Nidus screams its way into existence, like many of us managed to do. And here, well, the Swarm Hosts are going to be careful not to be stranded. They'll pop out the first round of Locusts. And Cyclone Hellion not particularly well suited to dealing with this. The key will be how much damage he's able to get done that GuMiho can't avoid. Now, in the midfield, the Cyclone Hellion can just run away, but the mineral patches cannot, believe it or not, so... GuMiho is forced to defend his base. There's still a Reaper on the map. I think a Hellion run-by was attempted, but either way, both players are now at booming economies with 3,500 minerals, 800 gas a minute for GuMiho. Rogue's at 2,900, 1,100. Focused. Coax the Banshee to make sure any queens popping out are going to have a tough time. The Barracks moves into scouting position. The Barracks Lord, probably a more capable scout than the Overlords are. Definitely has more HP. Technically, they move faster than Slovies as well. But the Roach, Swarm Host coming straight up the center. Now we got some siege tanks on the way. You don't want too many, you don't want too little when it comes to siege tanks against Swarm Hosts. Having none means you're very vulnerable to one mediocre fight. Where if you have too many, the Swarm Host can just exploit the main weakness of the siege tanks, which is their immobility. But if you have something that can cover them, something that can force Rogue to switch his tech into something maybe a bit more dramatic, that would be helpful. And that's why GuMiho, I assume, has a fusion core and 2 more starports on the way. This isn't for ranged liberators. There's a very small chance it's for medevacs, but Battlecruisers will be called in. GuMiho once again picks up his phone and will call in the fleet. The late-game Battlecruiser, it's not even really late game quite yet, but the Battlecruiser switch. The Cyclones, Locust actually going to get 2-3 Cyclones right off the bat as GuMiho looking the other way clearly. +3 plating is now on the way. A Spire has begun for Rogue, who's beginning to anticipate. He's angling for Broodlords. One, he sees a Liberator gliding along that north side, which means, well, obviously GuMiho's more focused on the starport units. Advanced ballistics obviously not done, but with the Liberators at the back, there's no easy way to dislodge them. Corruptors would be immensely helpful. Does he have a hive done? Of course he does. Siege tanks, big bites out of the Banelings. And another wave of Locusts is unleashed to the north side. Dropping down, Hellbats will be transformed. A Battlecruiser on the way, and GuMiho is maxed out, or I assume it would be more. The Hellbats are sacrificed in order to free up some supply. Anti-armor missile actually going to be very helpful here for the siege tanks. Maybe the Planetary Fortress can make something of it. There's actually not enough Banelings left over. He whips out the corrosive bile, knocks out his own roach, and now the mech army is trundling down the ramp, and the roaches have to tuck tail and run. The swarm host still on the high ground, realizing that's a precarious position at the very best. Battlecruiser almost completed. Yamato cannon hasn't yet entered production. Another wave of locusts, trying to use them on cooldown. 5 more swarm hosts. And Rogue has not really acknowledged the Spire. The Spire completed, but he's had no real reason to focus on it. The turrets outflank the Overseer, an impressive feat. Overlord speed has not been researched, which is a bit of an oversight, if I may editorialize a bit. Definitely something you want by the time you're building 39 Banelings. I assume he has, yes, he has Baneling speed done now. Immolates a Nidus Worm. GuMiho scanning across the board. He only has 3 orbitals, so scanning this much is certainly an investment. But GuMiho knows what he wants. A jump! He jumps to the other corner of the map. 3 more command centers on the way, and the Battlecruiser jumps completely in the dark. You do not have to have vision for it, not that it would take much with the access to scan, but so he'll just wait it out until he has another one ready and use it to maximum effect. But the swarm hosts over to the southern side, besieging the 4th base. Meanwhile, GuMiho heads up north with the main brunt of his army. The siege tanks sieged up, and the planetary fortress will fall at the 6 o'clock, but the Battlecruiser comes in. A few queens in position, battles all over the map simultaneously. Banelings rolling through, the siege tanks not able to take out enough of them, but that beautiful spread, I can't believe it's not butter. GuMiho backs off, he loses a lot of supply, but, well, what happened to the Battlecruiser? An unceremonious start for the fleet. It flew into the Spore Crawlers and Queens and died immediately. But, well, 2 more are in production. Still no Yamato cannon quite yet. Another wave of swarm hosts is going to be coming over the plateau. Vikings hit the deck. Zerglings will counter them. Hatchery picked off by the Cyclones. Locusts dropping down and swooping in. 1, 2, 3, 4 siege tanks. The entire army is going to be cleaned up. And Rogue is looking strong on the field, but he did lose multiple hatcheries on his side of the map. I mean, that's usually where they are, but the point is, GuMiho has some time to rebuild. He wasn't fighting on the back foot. He was attacking Rogue's feet. And there's a lot more to go. Miles, you might say, in order to bring it home. But the swarm host count, still, only a single one has been lost, and the Locusts have been finding a lot of success. The siege tank count is down to 3. Another wave of Locusts will be unleashed, and GuMiho is on the ropes, flips up a command center. Locusts underneath. Planetary needs to hold. He cannot lose this one. The SCVs are pulled off the line. Another planetary, another orbital in the air. Vikings on the ground fighting queens because, well, that's kind of historically accurate. Meanwhile, Banshee still going to work. There's still a siege tank over here with 14 kills. We're found to be cleaned up. Another wave of swarm hosts lining up an opportunity, but so far, GuMiho has held on. He's got more Battlecruisers, still no Yamato cannon, and he has money in the bank. It's clearly just a stressful situation for both sides. One of the most hectic games I've seen in quite a while, especially considering this is mech versus swarm hosts. 2 unit compositions that are known for being closer to turtles than jackrabbits here. But both of them are hopping into action. Command center is saved. Battlecruiser still gliding over. Had 3/3 upgrades on the way for Rogue. Right now, GuMiho's +2 mech weapons and +3 vehicle plating. GuMiho starts Yamato cannon, the fusion core upgrading, but he's down 50 supply. Four more clones on the way. He's burninating across the countryside with the Hellions, but unfortunately the countryside has a whole bunch of lings to offer. 5 corruptors on the way simultaneously. Well, Rogue actually did get +1 fire attack, giving him an opportunity to knock those Battlecruisers out of the sky easily. He does not have any infestors nor neural parasite, but he still has those swarm hosts bearing down on the center base. Forces out a few swoops. The rest of the Locusts are going to try to drop down and just knock out the planetary fortress, but the SCVs are pulled, and Rogue overcommits. What a save from GuMiho. And now the Battlecruisers are strafing over the top. The queens can't deal with it. The corruptors come out. And without Yamato cannon, a little bit of awkward micro there. A couple liberators at the back, but with +3 plating, the Battlecruisers are mostly shrugging off the attacks. But they've gone too deep and will jump away. 6 more corruptors in production. Rogue actually supply blocked. He must have lost some overlords throughout all this. Liberators were hanging out over to the north side. Corruptors are about the same speed, so this could be a long chase. Vikings on the... He whips out a wave of locusts because of the Vikings forcing the issue. Meanwhile, a few locusts will make it to the 6 o'clock base. GuMiho has restabilized. He's back up to 185 supply, and he's building more Battlecruisers. The fleet is gathering after that ruinous scouting expedition of the first cruiser. There's no detection, but the Cloak Banshee does run out of energy, thankfully seconds after the Corruptors flee the area. Greater Spire in production. Rogue looking for Broodlords, and possibly to invest more in Corruptors and then follow them up with Broodlords. 13 Corruptors against only 2 Battlecruisers, but the Cyclones underneath do terrible, terrible damage if they get anywhere close. Those lock-ons could be devastating if he's caught out of position. Another wave of Locusts bearing down on the center base that has withstood several so far. He drops it down again. Here we go. Must be Groundhog Day. GuMiho saves it again. And another wasted Locust wave. GuMiho, that will allow GuMiho to max out. Rogue has been diving on that planetary fortress like the bronzest of League heroes. A lesson that every player has learned and must learn every time they have the opportunity. But the planetary holds. And now the Queens, as well as the Corruptors, but he jumps away. 2 more Battlecruisers with the main army. The Battlecruisers existing forces such a strong response. Rogue has 26 supply committed to Corruptors, which are only there to deal with the Battlecruisers for the most part. Whereas the Battlecruisers could deal with everything for 24 supply on their own. So the efficiency is certainly there. How many starports? GuMiho has 6 starports. Job's finished. No, go with the Battlecruisers. No. Job's fit. Okay, Billy. Meanwhile, Yamato Cannon wipes out the Swarm Hosts, which have been elusive thus far, but you can't dodge a Yamato Cannon. There are a few asterisks on that statement, but for the most part, you cannot dodge a Yamato Cannon. The Battlecruisers with a tip-to-tip jump. Tip-top shape indeed. Now, here comes GuMiho with a beefy yet mobile army. It's all Hell Clones here, with a Raven and Viking overhead. 3 more factories are on the way. Battlecruisers working their way along the left side of the map. Banelings challenging the center. Rogue still with so much money. He's got a lot of gas in the bank as well. Infestors are a glaring opportunity. Neural Parasite. If you can't beat them, sometimes you just gotta hire them. But so far, Rogue has avoided those. In fact, he's avoided almost all those spellcasters, like the Plague. Possibly because none of them can cast it since the Brood War. Meanwhile, Locusts force kill 7 SCVs and force another orbital into the sky. More upgrades on the way. Another knight is taken down, but Burrow in production. It feels like, well, with a Congress of Corruptors up to the north side. Jumps away. Oh, but he jumps to the top right corner. He stays on the trajectory. You could actually see where they're going to jump with that, but 2 more Battlecruisers over to the left. Hellions try to go through the streets, but the factories are actually blocking them out. Again, the Cyclones down the center. Battlecruisers take out a hatch. He jumps. Where did he go? What are you doing in the corner? Meanwhile, the Locusts. That's the Battlecruiser corner over there. I guess he just like whipped his mouse to the edge of the screen, and that's where they ended up. The staging area where they regroup. You know you can jump anywhere on the map. There's no moving on. 9 Broodlords on the way. Rogue looking to lay down a killing blow. GuMiho not looking to lay down at all. Picks up an orbital command, struggling to mine from anything but his first 4 bases. But he still has 110 army supply. He's still building. Oh my. The mules are mining. I think we're about to see a downward trend in the stonks market here. And also in game. As right now, GuMiho has those mules for a massive boost of income. The swarm host intercepted by the Hell Clones. We'll get a couple. Drops down another way. Broodlords down the center. We got both flavors of free units here against some very expensive ones out of GuMiho. Where the Corruptors, how many Battlecruisers? Just 3. There's still too many Corruptors to just jump in. But with the help of the Cyclones, he might be able to deal with the rest. Rogue is actually out of money. If he loses these Broodlords, here come the Swarm House. Everybody piling in. This could be the fight. The Battlecruiser trying to line up the shots. We'll actually go for the Corruptors. Jumps away. What? Skips away. The Battlecruiser's kiting. Another one manages to jump a little bit further. The Cyclones, though, thinning things out. Another Battlecruiser. They're just skipping out of range. Anti-armor missile. GuMiho still has the Raven alive. What a unique attribute of actually keeping it there. The Battlecruisers survive somehow. The Battlecruisers all survived through the fight. Oh no. Wait, there's only one Corruptor? GuMiho, his 3 Battlecruisers lived through the entire fight. 14 kills, 3 kills. Okay, not as exciting. I thought it would be more exciting when I clicked on them and saw how many kills, but wow. GuMiho manages to hold on against the onslaught. Rogue with a dogged resistance to building any spellcasters. And it will cost him. It looked like for a while, it might be enough. He just breaks down the door and ransacks the base, but we're headed back to King's Cove for our bonus game. And by bonus game, I mean just another game of GuMiho making Battlecruisers. Because that's what we're doing today. In case I didn't mention that, that's what we're doing today. I got some Gumi games. And now we have Team Liquid's Cure. I know what you're like. Winter, if I wanted to watch Terran versus Terran, I'd just go play my own games. Like I haven't for 10 years. Or, okay, maybe I played with Legacy of the Void coming out, but it's been a while. I used to be dying. Moving on. I guarantee you, this game will have even more Battlecruisers. Now, there weren't that many Battlecruisers in the last game, but bear with me. And if you don't like Battlecruisers, how did you make it this far? And what's wrong with you? Why do you hate fun? You don't have to answer that, by the way. It's more rhetorical than anything. But GuMiho, the survivor, Rogue, he really just wanted... Now, like I mentioned, both GuMiho and Rogue, 2 players who will play their style. Sometimes to great success, and sometimes to their detriment. And Rogue, when he gets in his head, like many Zergs, there aren't too many Zergs out there who are like, I'm so hyped to go infester Broodlord. There are Zergs who are like, I need to go infester Broodlord. But wanting to go infester Broodlord, and if you can try to get away with it without going that direction, and that eventually is what many unit compositions kind of end up being. GuMiho's the same way with Ghosts, alright? We've seen GuMiho go mass Raven against Protoss to avoid going Ghost, because technically you can scramble both Archons, Templar, and Colossi and Immortals, obviously, with Interference Matrix. Among other things. So, both these players, GuMiho and Rogue, with almost an allergic reaction to the boring late-game unit compositions in favor of much more dynamic ones. Unfortunately, that time around it favors GuMiho. But Cure has no such predisposition. That's the right word. I struggled through it, but it's the right word. Cure is... the people's Terran. Okay? with almost an aggressively boring, an aggressively, okay, with a standard style, with passable execution, and remarkable macro. But it's hard to think of a strategy that really defines Cure besides building a bunch of Marines, losing most of them, but still somehow coming out ahead. The Red Army may be the order of the day. I've already kind of told you what direction GuMiho will be headed in, but I didn't tell you how long it's going to take us to get there. Because I don't actually know. I don't like to spoil that for myself. I just like to get a general idea. Especially with GuMiho. If we're going to see a... Just know, if you ever see a mirror matchup from one of the two races that have them, which are Terran and Protoss. So, just side note, fun fact. This is from Wardi's monthly replay pack. I'm actually not sure which tournament both these games are from. I believe Wardi's February tournament. There were 280 replays in the pack. Only 80 of them contain Clem. So, if I start casting games and it's not 1 in 4 Clem, but it's like 1 in 3 or 1 in 2, well, you know, I'm overvaluing Clem. Literally, though, 80 out of 280 games. There are 0 Zerg versus Zergs. So don't worry, you're not at risk of seeing that for a while. At least from Morty's tournaments. I think there's about 10 Terran versus Terrans, and there's about 40 Protoss versus Protoss, for reference. But speaking of Terran versus Terran, Cure tries to pop into GuMiho's base, and GuMiho bops him right back out. Hellions roasting the Hellions and Reaper of Cure. And again, we're on King's Cove, where the sheer distance, the map is so massive. They clearly modeled it after your mother. So, with so much space in between the players, even in Terran versus Terran, with your very quick, like the Reaper Hellion early, you're not going to close the distance. And GuMiho pretty much doing a slight adaptation of the same build he did against Rogue. He's got a Banshee, no cloak, because Terrans usually have a Raven and or Scan, so it's kind of meh. But building a third command center in the low ground at a surprisingly early timing, and just relying on that level of greed to actually make it more defensive. Reaper comes into the main. We'll pick off a SCV or two. Banshee also gets a couple. Reaper will be taken out, but the Banshee gets away. Cure is opting for Interference Matrix. Whereas GuMiho has Ravens himself. He's not getting any of the upgrades right now. Interference Matrix, incredibly valuable. I'd be surprised if we go to a later game and GuMiho doesn't end up with it. But the ability to lock down, I mean, not lock down, but, well, there's not many better ways to describe it. Disable the weapons and abilities of... Oh, GuMiho's like, how about 2 Banshees? And apparently, this Banshees is too strong. And now he's just kind of like, the Ravens can stare angrily at them. Sure. But, well, slap down some turrets. These Banshees getting a ridiculous amount of damage done, forcing out so much of a response. He's not going to get away with it, but he forces out multiple auto turrets. He kills a Cyclone, and so far he's killed 9 SCVs. And those Banshees were not going to be part of the army later on. Oh my god. And GuMiho is taking us back to McDonald's for seconds here today. 2 factories. A second starport on the way. Mass Vikings. Air superiority is everything. Siege Tank Viking has, since 2010, been the staple of Terran versus Terran. And I think more so, almost than ever. Like, since the Cyclones, again, were rechanged back to the future, they're no longer really a major threat. GuMiho is one of the proponents of massing. Wow, that is earlier than I expected, to be honest. Well, and GuMiho, not wasting any time and adding on a fusion core. Oh my. And what? There's a Raven. And now some Vikings coming in. He's going to try to drop it down. Do 2 Vikings beat a siege tank not in siege mode? If the Cyclones lock on, they do. And the Cyclones come in, murder the siege tank, refuse to elaborate further, and fuck right off. Now, well, like, GuMiho tried to get away with it. This raiding party was not a... He killed another 8 SCVs. So there's that. Feels like GuMiho's just toying with him right now. The siege tank Viking. The Battlecruiser den. Yamato cannon is on the way. Wait, weapon refit is the technical name of the upgrade, which is remarkably vague. And I'm pretty sure it's just fitting the weapon, because when you see the Battlecruiser pop out, so fun fact, you can tell if they have Yamato cannon researched, because there's this big-ass tube in the center of the Battlecruiser that either lights up or doesn't. So if you have Yamato cannon, it lights up like you can fire a Yamato cannon. I don't think it actually glows less if it's on cooldown. So it's not really a refit so much as that you paid your premium and now you get access to the... you get a 1-month subscription to Yamato cannon. Well, a 1-game subscription to Yamato cannon, which doesn't seem like a great deal, unlike subscribing here, where you get it for life, barring any sort of YouTube shenanigans. So the Ravens scramble 1 tank, but wait, there's more. You're probably not expecting a 3rd tank, because who would? Yep. Okay, that's it, right? Nope, there's more. Kira just keeps diving into the tank lines, and he does all this about 8 seconds before 1-1 in combat shield finished. He was trying to break through the tank lines and maybe take advantage of that. Little did he know, he clearly severely underestimated GuMiho's commitment to the siege tanks, as there's still 4 more back at home. The Battlecruiser is out, and he's just gliding by. Cyclone snipes a Viking on the ground, and now half a dozen Vikings overhead will easily take air superiority. And since siege tanks can fire further than their vision, that means Vikings with air superiority should allow them to hold the line. Now, Kira thinks he's got a good contain setup. He thinks he's locked things down. He thinks he's got GuMiho bottled up. There's just one thing. And that one thing is a Battlecruiser gliding across the map. A Yamato cannon obliterates a siege tank. The Marines will stim, which just brings them closer to death, as the Battlecruiser shrugs off half a dozen of them. And without any Vikings, the battle... Oh, GuMiho. And since he just waltzed across, or was just gliding across the map, he can jump out at any point. Well, the Ravens died, which means no interference matrix, no way to actually shut this down. He's gonna kill more. He might even be, he brings in a drop. We get the Viking, he's just targeting down Marines. GuMiho, a leisurely target practice, and then comes home. 21 kills. GuMiho's up 12 supply. He's gonna take his 4th base. He's finishing 1-1 upgrades for the ground. Really, it's just the plating upgrades on the Battlecruiser. And Cure, a fusion core of his own, prepared to respond in kind. Or unkindly, really, either way. Probably more of that. But some more starports on the way. Things are escalating, literally and figuratively. The supply is 161 apiece. GuMiho, with another half dozen command centers. No, 2 more command centers. He's building an orbital planetary. A total of 4 commands, 4 orbital commands, 2 planetaries, 2 more command centers on the way. All right, 8 command centers. 89 SCVs, 2 more starports in production. That's gonna bring him to 5. We just got a taste of the Battlecruisers against Rogue, and it was delicious. But now, this feels gratuitous. High sec auto. Caduceus reactor cure? I don't hate it. I mean, in this scenario where supply is at a premium and so is starport time, it makes a lot of sense. Like that Caduceus, there's no reason, there's no excuse not to get it. Caduceus reactor doubles the energy regen of your medevacs for 100. If you got the fusion core, there's really no excuse. It costs 1 medevac to have twice as strong medevacs, which is about as supply as efficient as it can get. Whips out a volley, siege tank. What did he even fire out with a third? Not entirely sure, but I'm sure he got it. 3 Thors on the way for GuMiho as he goes for the box art army. Because of course he does. Thors, incredible against both Battlecruisers and Vikings. Mass turrets across the board. He's got all the upgrades you've ever wanted in production. Building armor. We got smart servos for the transform speed on Vikings, Hellbats, Thors for their weapon mode. And in this matchup, there's no reason not to use... Well, this... Okay, the rocks. 4 more command centers on the way. About to have more scans than a Costco checkout aisle here. As both sides will have effectively map hacks for a little extra APM and investment. A Ventria scan from GuMiho. Thank you. Command center will be taken down, but he's got a half dozen more where that came from. More Battlecruisers in production. GuMiho. He's maxed out and nowhere to go. I'm pretty sure that tank is walled in by the turrets here. So that's where it lives now. GuMiho bringing some SCVs. Yamato cannon, 1, 2, 3. Well, good thing you got Caduceus reactor because you got a lot of work to do, but back. Triple kill across the board as GuMiho does a tank turret push across the map. Missile turret siege. This is Bronze League Heroes now. GuMiho. Cure is doing a Bio-Curious build where he has Marines, tanks, and medevacs, but he's also got a bunch of Ravens mixed in there to try to scramble enough of this army. But a battle group of cruisers headed south, and you can't teleport Ravens. Major weakness. So the main army for Cure is up to the north side, but the Vikings will intercept Pop's 1 Raven. What are the ship weapons upgrades? +1, 2 for GuMiho and 1, 1 for Cure. The Battlecruisers are casually strafing by, and Cure has no response. We're going into a base trade. Oh my. Well, okay. I asterisk. We're not going into it. Well, we're going into a literal base trade in that they're going to trade a base. The Battlecruisers jump back in, though. Unfortunately, they're going to jump into the interference matrices. Kira says, stop right there, criminal scum. But the Vikings cannot be stopped so easily. And there's enough Battlecruisers. He knocks out a couple Ravens. The Marine's going to take out the Vikings underneath. 1 Battlecruiser may die. Thor taken out. GuMiho coming in. It's like a... Wow, he's getting chased from all sides. GuMiho maintains a maxed out position throughout all of this. And I still can't help but feel like GuMiho's toying with him. Because GuMiho right now has 26 missile turrets. His turrets per minute count is skyrocketing. So his rockets will be going into the sky. Those missile turrets going to be incredibly helpful since Ravens can't really fight back except by making little sad baby turrets of their own. Meanwhile, the Thors helping to zone out and making it so anything that gets close is going to suffer a painful price. And Cure, he has a lot more army supply, and he's going to need it. He's got 3-3 on the ground. There's only a couple siege tanks. The turrets can't kill the bio. Thor's just... Hello? I'd like to talk to you about your barracks insurance. No? Alright, the thing is, this entire army is vulnerable to interference matrix. 90% of the army is scrambled, and Cure will dive into the gap. The SCVs looking for something to repair, but... What, you run out of Marines? We never built any Marines. I don't... The Battlecruisers on top of the 6 o'clock base. The Ravens looking to intercept. Surprisingly, GuMiho, well, you can technically jump. He jumps before the scrambles can come off. He jumps back home to the shipyards. GuMiho right now with more CCs than a poorly formatted corporate email. Another casual Yamato cannon. Cure has done quite a great job of breaking out. But GuMiho, I think, still in a comfortable position. He's got 5 factory 7 starports. +3 ship weapons is now on the way for both sides. +2 plating in production for Cure. +2 plating is already done for GuMiho. Or +3 plating, sorry. Numbers are hard. Marines, Vikings, and Ravens. Look what they must do to mimic a fraction of our power, says GuMiho with his battlecruisers. He's putting Cure in the same position that he was in against Rogue. This lumbering army that is very difficult to stop head on. But remember how that game ended, so the thing is here, GuMiho has battlecruisers in both games. That's really the defining characteristic and the reason we're watching them back to back, so I think the similarities end there. Because GuMiho has one of the most powerful armies you can get in the game without investing in ghosts or ravens, I guess. That's kind of a key point. He has the Terran army. 22 Vikings, 3 siege tanks, and 11 battle cruisers. Cure has a whole variety pack of Terran. He's got 3 medevacs, 25 Vikings. A variety pack where most of the Skittles are Vikings. But here we are. More missile turrets on the way. Ship weapons going to be finishing up around the same time for both players. GuMiho just built a supply depot out on the map. Is that... Why not? Why not? They're both banking up a pretty ridiculous amount of money. 3K in the bank across the board. I don't know how many command centers now. Double digits on either side. They're both continually scanning the battle cruisers. Gonna need to keep track of those ravens. He's gonna get one of the command centers. Cure doesn't actually have high-sec auto-tracking nor building armor right now, so that's the prevailing issue. Scan spots the raven ball. Not even sure why he's still building marines at this stage. I don't feel like just pure Viking Raven might be better. Jumps away with the cruisers. Well, if he gets an anti-armor missile, if he locks down siege tanks and uses anti-armor missile, Marines become way better. With the extra damage taken by each unit increased by 2, Marines fire very quickly. So do battlecruisers, though, so... Citizens, woo, overtime! I like how Cure microed them back, like GuMiho wasn't clearly trying to free up supply there. 9 SCVs. The rest of the SCVs out for blood as well. Traumatizing experience. More scans. Viking. No, you're trying to get rid of the SC. Don't save them. GuMiho saves the SCVs he was trying to get rid of to free up supply. Which, you know, good reflex, I guess, but... feels like creating extra work for yourself for the most part. Still just 3 siege tanks to 2. Auto turret slapped down in the face of the real turrets. Battlecruisers strafing along the left side, whereas Cure is working around the right. The Vikings engaging, and GuMiho gets several volleys off before Cure really reacts. 33 to 22 Vikings. The Ravens are the difference makers. If Cure is not able to use them, then the Battlecruisers just win the game, right? More medevacs getting taken out, intercepted across the board. 28 SCVs dead. Not that either player really needs him. He jumps away. Gets away with mass murder. And he ruins the infrastructure. He takes out most of the add-ons. The trail of destruction in his wake. Cure is struggling for minerals and actually loses a command center, which will supply block him at 199 over 193. I don't think he used any. No, Yamato Cannon is off cooldown. SCVs, repair squad, chasing things around. Why can SCVs repair things in the air, but they can't attack them? Riddle me this. Anti-armor missile. He knows tactical jump is on cooldown. The Vikings engaging. Without that anti-armor missile, GuMiho actually going to struggle a bit in this fight, and this is exactly when the Marines can be valuable. The Vikings trying to engage a few siege tanks on the low ground, going to help out immensely. He needs to scramble the tanks. The Battlecruisers are almost entirely locked down. A smorgasbord of colors dotting the field as the Battlecruisers are both anti-armor missiles and interference matrixed, which just feels like overkill a bit. But most of them still alive, so apparently not. 3-3-3 for the only units that matter for GuMiho. +2 plating is as far as Cure has gotten. Otherwise, 3-3 upgrades across the board. 26 missile turrets. We're back to that number. Wave of mules will drop. How many orbital commands? 10 orbital commands. 3 planetaries. Oh, GuMiho. We're 24 minutes in, and I still can't shake the feeling of GuMiho toying with Kira this whole time. Pretty much from the moment he jumped in with Reapers, it feels like GuMiho has had his number, and he's been calling him repeatedly. And Kira's like, I'm a millennial, I don't pick up calls. And GuMiho knows that, but he knows it's still annoying to look at it and be like, it's probably spam. I've never met potential spam in my life. And now they're calling me? Shame. Well, Cure looking like a lost puppy right now. Meanwhile, GuMiho looking like someone hunting a lost puppy and really sadistically enjoying it, which is pretty messed up. But thankfully, Cure is not a puppy. He's just a bunch of Terran units, so we'll let it slide this time. The Vikings on the ground, and then they lift into the air. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. The orbital command is taken out. I don't know what you expected. And now Cure is contemplating what he wants to put on his gravestone. We tried nothing, and we're all out of ideas. Cure built the fusion core and only got Caduceus reactor. To be honest, though, GuMiho is building one of the strongest unit compositions, and if you don't play near perfect, it is immensely difficult to deal with if they ever get an advantage. In fact, GuMiho hasn't even taken perfect fights, but the Battlecruisers have given him so much initiative. Cure has not been able to really dictate the pace of the game at all. Well, Viking on deck. Pops right back up. Battlecruisers. He hasn't really rebuilt them, but they've survived so long. 10 kills, 11 kills, 19, 7, 20. Nearing 100 kills on those cruisers. Some supply depots. Cure's struggling with supply blocks, though he actually has more money in the bank. Probably because he's been struggling with supply blocks, so Meanwhile, GuMiho. Okay, that's Cure trying to take it. I was really hoping GuMiho was going to try to expand there. He's actually, well, 32 to 27 workers. They've been scanning so much, but he has 10 orbital commands, so the siege tanks, it feels like they're a feature of the map. They just keep showing up a little bit closer each time. Suddenly, GuMiho has 13 siege tanks. He just built 3 more Battlecruisers as well. Cure has 25 Vikings, 16 Ravens, and 42 Marines. Smattering of Marauders and Medevacs in that. Looking to intercept. Well, here comes Cure. Giving it all he's got. Full scan across the board. Scrambles the tanks. Where are the cruisers? The Vikings kiting back, popping as many Ravens as they can. Cure will successfully break out into the Valley of Death. He takes out all but a couple tanks, but those couple tanks still finding a lot of damage. The Battlecruisers just itching to line up the Yamato cannons. Both players brutally low in income now. Like, they've thrown away so many SCVs. They're reliant almost entirely on mules. 25 to 27 workers. Cure has what we'll call the lead. I'm not sure why. At this point, I don't think you need to throw away any more workers. Cure's actually rebuilding SCVs. I don't think he really threw any away. He just didn't keep them alive, which is a different thing. Yamato cannon. There goes a Raven. The Marines will be driven away by the Battlecruisers. Lines up a volley of Yamato cannons. The scrambles, though, will interrupt. Some of the Yamatos go off. Vikings overhead. Trying to kite back. Cure doing a great job of manipulating this area, though. And the Ravens really paying off. GuMiho once again showing that he refuses. Sometimes he just refuses to build certain units. Sometimes Ravens are amazing. And sometimes he's like, well, you built Ravens? I don't need them. And GuMiho trying to prove it here. Though he's at slight risk of overextending. If he does lose the cruisers once, he may never get that momentum back. 40 to 22 Vikings. So, not exactly ideal. Yamato cannon, lined up, scrambles, jumps away. Back into the fray. And now, Cure, having a very... What? Wow. Cure just defeated. He's had enough. GuMiho. Cure still had his Ravens and his Vikings, but there's no money left. There's no income. GuMiho has like 20 turrets in the middle of the... He just stiff arms him off the map with the Battlecruisers. And for pretty much the entire game, it felt like Cure was just chasing him around. Well, GuMiho shows that Battlecruiser is even more effective against Terran. All you Bronze League heroes are right. So, again, proving his creativity and his prowess. And hopefully you enjoyed this conclusion of the GuMiho fan club for this month. Thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you to Wardi for putting on his tournaments as always. And thank you, if you got the means and motivation for checking out Patreon or YouTube membership, even more appropriate than ever. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons for bringing in all those extra minerals, as we saw. Big Jig, Dorke, Mario, and Suit. And I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun, stay chill.